Part 27. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 261. Even the last elite of the royal family, a modern elite force composed entirely of royal descendants, suffered heavy losses. The final result was that the Earth Emperor Garden was wiped out from the Red Lotus realm, and only a few royal children escaped. And he, the godson of the former royal eunuch Wang Gonggong. He took the youngest princess and escaped the attack of the shells. From a remote path, he escaped from the area where the Earth Emperor Garden was located. He took the little princess to the Hongliang family, the descendants of the founding duke of the previous dynasty. The little princess eventually married the young master of the duke's mansion and has survived until now. And he, the little eunuch Wang, also became the butler of Wang because he practiced the royal martial arts. During the First World Change 3 years ago, he broke through to the first level of the human immortal way. And now, he has stepped into the peak realm of the first level of the human immortal way, refining liquid. What happened in the Hongliang family a few days ago also quickly aroused his vigilance. Because only the members of the Hongliang family of the princess's lineage showed symptoms of sleepwalking in the middle of the night. So he keenly felt that this was some kind of threat to the royal family. Butler Wang, who is over 100 years old, has long been old and cunning. At first, he told everyone to keep Hongliang and his 2 sons under control and not let them sleepwalk away from their respective residences in the middle of the night. At the same time, he also began to secretly investigate whether the empire was carrying out any conspiracy. Because that catastrophe was almost certainly the work of the Hongliang Empire behind the scenes. After hiding for so many years, if there are still people who are thinking about the royal bloodline, it must be the Hongliang Empire. Now Butler Wang has the combat power of the human fairy level, and the wealth and power of the Hongliang family. He is at least qualified to investigate what happened. But before he could find out the results of the investigation, Hongliang had already found the princess. Finally, after discussion, the princess decided to let Butler Wang thoroughly investigate this matter. But what Butler Wang never expected was that the root of all this was actually from the tomb of Taizhou of the Dao dynasty. This made him feel creepy, and it was obvious that there was a huge conspiracy going on. Perhaps in addition to the princess's lineage, there were other surviving royal family members who were attracted here. Thinking of this, his face became even uglier, and his voice sounded in Hongliang's ears. Let's go, this matter is not that simple. And in the tomb, a change was happening. Countless black smoke tentacles burst out in an instant and rushed towards the people standing in the tomb. The strange child received Lin Yi's order and attacked those standing people. Xingyuezi opened his eyes, and a trace of anger appeared in his eyes. A roar resounded throughout the tomb, "Little thief, how dare you!" Boom! The tomb seemed to have turned into a dragon's den and a tiger's lair in an instant. Xingyuezi raised his hand and pointed at the entrance of the passage, and countless black air on the ground rose into the air. Mysterious patterns and structures lit up in the tomb. It seemed that at this moment, the tomb had turned into a huge formation. So when Xingyuezi pointed out, countless black air followed. This black air turned into sharp blade lights and appeared out of thin air, extending countless tentacles to cut the strange child. Bang bang bang. Accompanied by a slight collision sound, the black smoke tentacles of the strange child collapsed in an instant. At this time, the strange child had received the order from Lin Yi, and retreated in a flash and disappeared here. A faint black air appeared around Xingyuezi, like a phantom, and it flashed to the end of the passage. A ball of black light appeared under his feet, and he took a step forward, which was 10 meters away, as if he was teleporting. The strange child had turned into a black shadow and returned to the exit at a high speed along the road he came from. In just 1 minute, he had arrived at the exit. But the next moment, he rushed into the underground. As a black shadow without substance, the material barrier could not actually stop it. After entering the underground soil at the exit, he rushed towards the forest outside the exit. The butler Wang and the other two were still at the exit, cautiously looking at the dark passage without any action. At this time, a figure filled with black air stepped out of the passage. The feminine face showed a hint of gloom, looking at the three people at the exit of the passage. He frowned, and he had seen at least two masters of the human immortal way. At this time, Butler Wang looked at him vigilantly. "Who are you? Dare to desecrate the tomb of the royal ancestor?" As he spoke, a pure white chill permeated his body, and a trace of ice permeated from his body, turning into a layer of black ice armor that surrounded him completely. From head to toe, there was no gap. The black ice armor has a precise structure, and every joint is extremely delicate, which does not affect the movement at all. Zhang Lingyun, who was standing aside, also showed a solemn look in his eyes. A slender knife at the waist was slowly drawn out, and a ray of blue-black knife light enveloped the blade. The dangerous aura rose from the two people, causing Xuanhuan to frown. He could sense the strong murderous intent and countless bloody smells from these two people. They were martial arts masters who belonged to the practical school. Thinking of this, his hands slowly dropped down, and his hands changed more than a dozen seals in an instant, and finally put the index and middle fingers of his left and right hands together. Two black mists diffused from the two fingers. The next moment, these weapons seemed to crystallize and turned into two sharp swords. The Taoism of the evil sect against heaven, the Taiyan finger sword. Lin Yi, who had been hiding in the grove, shone with the brilliance of the true destiny Daoji, and operated to the extreme. He caught Xuanhuan's trick. Xuanhuan's mouth showed a trace of indifference, and the next moment, he took a step forward. Two sword lights stabbed towards Steward Wang and Zhang Lingyun respectively. The black sword light was like two poisonous snakes, quickly and accurately pointing to the throats of the two. Steward Wang's face was solemn. He could feel the power of the person in front of him. The two sword lights gave him a terrifying feeling of death. His hands were covered with black ice, which was his secret royal practice, specially for the eunuchs in the palace to learn. As the highest authority, in the most brilliant era of martial arts in the past. The martial arts they learned were all top-notch, but they could only allow them to practice to the peak at most. Infinitely close to the first level of the spirit pool realm of the human immortal Dao. And the practice he practiced was called Nine Heavens Mysterious Ice. It is a technique that can create an icy phenomenon at the top level, which is a power that most martial arts techniques cannot possess. After entering the human immortal path, the power of this technique will truly bloom. The black ice armor can defend against all methods and is a top-level Taoist technique. Once it is used, unless the attack power reaches more than twice the power of an ordinary immortal with full strength. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 262. Otherwise, it would be impossible to break this Xianbing armor. He even used this Xianbing armor to block the attack of a sniper rifle. The defensive power of this Xianbing armor can be called abnormal. He raised his hands high and blasted towards Xuanhuan's finger sword. Dang! There was a huge collision sound, and the dark body of the finger sword suddenly bent. The tip of the sword firmly pierced the fist of Xianbing armor. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. And the place where Xianbing armor and indirect contact were even sparked. A dark green knife light was silent, like a green silk thread, slashing towards Xuanhuan's waist. Xuanhuan's eyes flashed, and the black air under his feet flashed, and he had avoided this dark green knife light. In this flash, his body came to the side of Wang Guanjia, and his upper body bent slightly. The body spun like a top, and two dark sword lights exploded instantly. Like countless shadows, accompanied by the centrifugal force of the spiral, all hit the left side of Wang Guanjia's body. Countless sparks exploded at this moment. Wang Guanjia was also blown away at close range and crashed into Zhang Lingyun, who swung his sword in the air. Zhang Lingyuan's body movements were very light and agile, like a light shadow, avoiding Wang Guanjia who rushed over. He bent down and flashed, and arrived in front of Xingyuezi. At this time, Xingyuezi hit Wang Guanjia with all his strength, and he was at the moment when the old strength was exhausted and the new strength was not yet born. Facing Zhang Lingyuan, who saw the opportunity, Xingyuezi's eyes were calm, as if everything had been expected by him. I don't know when a dark light rushed out of his arms. It was a small light, but the size of a thumb. It flew straight to the center of Zhang Lingyuan's eyebrows, and the speed was extremely fast, like a bullet. With his hair standing on end, Zhang Lingyuan instantly realized that death was looming over him. The knife light that was originally slashing towards Xingyuezi changed its direction forcibly and blocked the path of this small light. When two people meet on a narrow road, the brave wins. In extreme situations, Zhang Lingyuan has very little choice. Dang! A huge metal collision, and the next moment the dark green knife light exploded. Zhang Lingyuan's face changed drastically, and he blocked himself with both hands. A sharp pain rose in his arms. He knew he was injured, and a kick shrouded in black air instantly kicked his arms. A terrifying force exploded. Zhang Lingyuan's heart sank, and a trace of shock flashed through his mind. The energy in his body also exploded in an instant and gathered on his arms. Bang! With another loud noise, he flew backwards. In mid-air, he turned his body, changed direction, and stepped on the ground with his legs. At this time, Xingyuezi followed quietly like a shadow. The sword light of the finger sword stabbed towards Zhang Lingyuan, who was falling from the sky. This sword was as fast as lightning, and a strange aura permeated the finger sword. Zhang Lingyuan, who had not yet landed in mid-air, looked at the sword light of Xingyuezi coming towards him, and his heart was shocked. He felt the threat of death. At this moment, a white shadow jumped up from below and intercepted Xingyuezi. In mid-air, two fists had already been blasted out, blasting towards Xingyuezi's lower body. Steward Wang made a move, and he was repelled by the first level just now. When he came to his senses, Zhang Lingyuan had already fallen into an absolute disadvantage. He immediately made a move in mid-air to intercept, and he would never allow Zhang Lingyuan to die. Otherwise, he would face the mysterious Taoist alone, and the result would be death. His fist was like a cannonball, aiming at Xingyuezi's waist. There is a vital part of the human body, and it is certain to die if it is hit. Two sword lights burst out from Xingyuezi's hands and chopped off the head of Steward Wang, who was rushing towards him. Dang dang! There were two loud crashes again, and Butler Wang was smashed directly to the ground. At the moment of smashing to the ground, his right hand grabbed Xingyuezi's left foot and brought him to the ground. Xingyuezi's body fell to the ground involuntarily, with a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. The tiny stream of light in his arms blasted out again and instantly hit Butler Wang's right hand. Boom! With a loud sound like a bell, Butler Wang felt a sharp pain in his arm. Many cracks appeared in the Xianbing armor in an instant. He immediately let go of his right hand at the critical moment. Boom! His legs fell to the ground, and the huge force stepped out two deep pits on the ground. At this time, Xingyuezi also landed leisurely in front of Butler Wang. A stream of light swirled around him, and the finger swords in his left and right hands had exploded again. Like thousands of cold stars, they fell directly on Butler Wang's body. The huge force exploded all over Butler Wang's body, and countless sparks splashed. Butler Wang seemed to have no power to resist and was knocked several meters away again. Hong Lianke, who was standing by, had already been stunned. He sat down far away and looked at the three people who were in a state of fighting with a look of fear. When he saw that Wang Guanjia and his bodyguard were suppressed, he panted and quietly moved towards the grove behind him. At this time, Butler Wang saw Hong Lianke's small movements, and a gleam of light appeared in his eyes. He shook the energy in his body, stabilized his body in an instant, and punched out with both fists. He punched out dozens of punches in an instant, and at this time, Xingyuezi's figure was chasing him. Facing Butler Wang's sudden outburst, Xingyuezi paused. Two sword lights flew up again, landing accurately on every punch he threw. Sword lights crisscrossed, and fist shadows flew all over the sky. The narrow distance between the two was filled with power. Zhang Lingyun, who was behind Butler Wang, only recovered at this time. There were many bloodstains on his arms, and there were some fragments on them. They were all fragments of his weapons, which pierced into his arms at the moment of the explosion just now. And being kicked by Xingyuezi while injured made his hands extremely painful. He couldn't even exert his normal strength, and his energy circulated, and a huge repulsive force rushed out of his arms. The fragments shot out with a puffing sound. Under the circulation of energy, his arms quickly regained consciousness. Although it still stung, it was much better, at least 50% of the original strength. In front of him, Butler Wang and Xingyuezi were in a state of anxiety. His eyesight naturally saw that countless ice chips were constantly falling from Butler Wang's arms. It was obviously cut off by Xingyuezi's sword light, and his heart tightened. He picked up the gravel from the ground with both hands, turned over and went to the other side. He injected his energy into the gravel and threw it towards Xingyuezi's head. The flying stone was included in the dark green energy, and it made a huge sound of breaking through the air. Xingyuezi frowned and felt the crisis coming from the side. The stream of light circling around him stopped on his right side in an instant. Facing the two flying gravel, the stream of light smashed them into pieces in a flash. However, this stream of light always moved only within a 1-meter radius of Xingyuezi, and it was obviously a magical weapon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 263. The sword light in Xingyuezi's hand never stopped, and even got faster and faster. Although Wang Guanjia kept punching out, his body was constantly retreating. It was obvious that he was gradually falling into an absolute disadvantage, and his energy was constantly being consumed. Zhang Lingyun on the side kept throwing stones from the ground to Xingyuezi. The energy was injected into it as if it was free, tempting Xingyuezi to continue to use that stream of light to intercept. This was a war of attrition, and Xingyuezi was aware of the other party's intention. Trying to consume his energy through harassment attacks. A slight sneer of disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. Stupid. Essence consumption tactics, what an ancient way. In a place where Wang Guanjia and Zhang Lingyun could not see, groups of energy were being released from Xingyuezi's body. They were groups of energy, and they were sealed in secret corners of Xingyuezi's body. When his energy was empty, it would be released little by little to replenish his energy consumption. Quickly restore his energy to its peak state. Lin Yi, who was hiding in the grove, was shocked when he saw this scene. Obviously this was a mysterious method. Good guy, this stored energy is 3 times that of the spirit pool. And the energy in this guy's body is completely different from ours. It looks like light. This is the energy light quality of the second level of the human immortal way. After instantly understanding what was going on, Lin Yi became more vigilant about this mysterious Taoist. In this battle, he has already absorbed a lot of information. He can even determine the outcome of this battle. Hong Liankei's side is doomed to lose. The energy in the body of the housekeeper Wang is less than 30%, and he will be defeated in a few minutes at most. Without the protection of the black ice armor, his death is only a moment. As for Zhang Lingyun, he is no match at all. As long as the mysterious Taoist is free, he will die in the next moment. They are both at the level of the human immortal way, but their power, means and knowledge are completely different. Who is this person? Isn't he too powerful? Lin Yi's heart was 120% alert, and he slowly retreated to the deeper part of the forest. Only the strange child was left there to watch. A gentleman does not stand under a dangerous wall. The opponent has superb skills and endless secret methods. He may discover his existence. The best way to ensure life is to stay away from here. Crack. A violent crisp sound suddenly sounded, and the butler Wang's face changed drastically. The black ice armor around him was collapsing, and he suddenly realized that his energy was less than 30%. At this time, his opponent seemed to be unaffected, and his strength was still so stable and violent. Without any hesitation, he retreated suddenly, and the black ice armor on his body was completely shattered in an instant. At the same time, his hands had reached into his sleeves, and two black balls flew out and rushed towards Xuanhuan. A loud shout, "Go separately!" Zhang Lingyuan heard the words and rushed in one direction. There was a hint of gloom in his eyes, and the other party's terror had exceeded his imagination. He had already exerted his secret method with all his strength, and the whole person disappeared into the woods on the left like a dark green shadow. At the same time, two huge explosions and black smoke exploded, turning the 10-meter radius into a dark world. Butler Wang had already arrived beside Hong Lianke, holding Hong Lianke's right arm with his right hand, and rushed into the woods on the left. Whoosh! A black gust of wind blew out from the smoke. I saw a circle of faint black light around Xuanhuan, released from his Taoist robe. It formed a circle of black light wall, blocking the explosion and countless black smoke just now. His face was slightly gloomy, and his eyes looked at the woods where Butler Wang and Hong Lianke disappeared. But he did not chase after them, but a Bagua treasure mirror appeared in his hand. He pinched a magic formula with his right hand, as if communicating with someone. He just heard his deep voice, "Three people broke in, two of them are masters of the human immortal way. I have injured them all, leaving marks on their bodies, and we need the senior to take action. I have to stay here to guard." It seems that there is someone on the other side of the Bagua mirror, but the position of the strange child cannot see the picture in the Bagua mirror. At this time, Xuanhuan put away the Bagua mirror, turned around and walked into the passage. He was not worried about the three people who had just left. The strange child, who was peeping in the dark, under Lin Yi's order, followed the direction where Hong Lianke and Wang Guanjia disappeared. There was a trace of thinking in his eyes. It seems that these people are doing something. It has something to do with the royal family of the previous dynasty. It's very strange no matter how you look at it. I don't know what the ending of Hong Lianke will be. Lin Yi fell far behind, and the strange child turned into an illusory black shadow and caught up with the two people who were fleeing. Time passed by minute, and soon Hong Liang and the others came to an open area, which was the shore of a pond. When the two of them rushed out, their bodies suddenly stopped. Butler Wang's pupils shrank and he looked forward. A figure appeared in the pavilion next to the pond, looking at them with his hands behind his back. Butler Wang could not feel any fluctuations in the man's spirit, but he felt a breath of death enveloping him. His whole body was trembling. This was an instinctive fear. Hong Liang, who was standing next to him, had already been trembling all over and could not stand up. Butler Wang took a deep breath, supported Hong Liang, and whispered in his ear, "Young master, I will attract his attention later. When I move, you will run to the other direction of the woods. Don't look back, run as fast as you can." Hong Liang was shocked. He knew what Butler Wang meant. Butler Wang could not defeat the man in front of him, but he would use his life to buy time for himself. Hong Liang was trembling in his heart, and a trace of fear appeared in his eyes. He knew that the possibility of death today was very high. He did not speak, but nodded vigorously. He knew this was the last chance. Butler Wang smiled with relief, took a step forward. A pill appeared in his hand, and swallowed it in one gulp. The next moment, his breath surged, and the blood and spirit in his body boiled and recovered like a flame. The black ice armor once again covered his entire body. This time, the armor was thicker than before, just like the heavy armor of ancient times, without a single gap. The mysterious man standing in front of the two was the mastermind of all this, Tongshenzi. He looked at Butler Wang, whose aura was surging and covered with a layer of black ice armor, and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 264. Nine Heavens Mysterious Ice. Interesting, I didn't expect to see this legendary technique here. Snow is falling all over the world, and the sky is frozen for 9 days. From your appearance, you have just entered the peak of the first level of the human immortal path, and you should have only practiced the first day of the 9-day ice. You should have taken a secret medicine and stimulated all your potential. You have already entered the second day. The strange child hid in the woods, and heard the faint voice of Tongshenzi, which immediately came to Lin Yi's mind. 9 Heavens Mysterious Ice. Snow is falling all over the world, and the sky is frozen for 9 days. It sounds like this technique is very powerful. Fortunately, I just wrote down all this technique, and I will go back and study it carefully. Just when Lin Yi was thinking, Butler Wang had already moved. He was 100 years old, but now he was like a middle-aged man. The huge black ice armor covered his whole body, and he was like a giant over 2 meters tall. With great force, he rushed towards Tongshenzi. At this time, Hung Liang turned around and rushed into the woods, running away in another direction. Tongshenzi didn't seem to care about Hung Liang's escape. He just looked at Wang Guanjia, who rushed towards him quietly. Tongshenzi's right palm was facing up, and a phantom handprint was formed. In the void around him, a huge force instantly gathered in his palm. Then his palm seemed to turn into a black jade stone, and he slapped Wang Guanjia head on. Tongshenzi, who was only about 1.8 meters tall, was compared with Wang Guanjia, who was more than 2 meters tall. It was like the difference between a child and a giant. Seeing the palm of Tongshenzi coming, Wang Guanjia's body flashed, and he was flexible, which was inconsistent with his body size, and avoided the oncoming palm. At the same time, his right fist blasted out and blasted towards Tongshenzi's head. Wang Guanjia knew very well that what he wanted was not to defeat Tongshenzi, but to buy more time for Hung Liang. Hey, you're quite clever. While Tongshenzi was speaking, his body suddenly disintegrated into countless phantoms and disappeared before Wang Guanjia's punch. After a punch in the air, Wang Guanjia's face changed drastically. Behind him, a figure changed from illusion to reality in just a moment. A black, delicate, jade-like palm gathered the huge power of the surrounding void and gently patted his vest. A mysterious force penetrated his body and passed through this layer of Xianbing armor. It made his heart tremble, and his spirit seemed to be struck by a thunderbolt. In an instant, his whole body's energy began to disperse, and under the influence of the mysterious power, he completely lost control of himself. Plop! He fell to the ground head first, and the Xianbing armor covering his body broke inch by inch, turning the ground into a piece of frost. A trace of pity appeared in Tongshenzi's eyes. It's really too weak. The next day's 9 Heavens Xianbing is just like this. As soon as the voice fell, a radiance flashed in Tongshenzi's hand. Dots of black light in the void gathered towards his right hand. A black spike appeared in his hand and stabbed into Wang Butler's head. Puff! There was no possibility of resistance. Wang Butler couldn't even struggle, and his head was pierced. His body twitched a few times and stopped moving. Lin Yi saw the scene through the eyes of the strange child, and keenly noticed that something was wrong with this mysterious man. He didn't see the fluctuation of life from the other party. Now he borrowed the eyes of the strange child, so he didn't have the ability to analyze the true destiny. But the strange child himself also saw more things and levels than ordinary people. After all, the strange child didn't see things through vision, but through the senses of the resentful spirit to see the world. The strange child looked at this mysterious man and clearly noticed something unusual. Wang Butler's body was filled with red life light and white cold air, which was the essence he held. There was no red life light on this mysterious man. Only a dark and cold aura enveloped him, and he felt like a resentful spirit. The opponent's method seemed to be Taoism, and in the process of fighting just now, the opponent's body gathered and dispersed freely, as if it was an illusory thing. Obviously, this was the effect of some mysterious Taoism. At this moment, the mysterious man's eyes suddenly looked in the direction of the strange child. Who? Come out. Lin Yi was shocked. He knew that the strange child was discovered. Without any hesitation, the strange child turned into black smoke in an instant and disappeared in the woods. Tang Shenzhen narrowed his eyes, flashed a mysterious light, and looked towards the woods. Of course, what surprised him was that the fluctuation he felt just now completely disappeared. Interesting, it can disappear under my nose. This is really amazing. Did anyone notice it? Shaking his head slightly, Tang Shenzhen disappeared in a flash. He seemed to have turned into a black light, flashing 100 meters, and chasing in the direction of Hung Liang's escape at a high speed. After just a few breaths, he had already caught up with Hong Lianke. Hong Lianke fell to the ground in fear when he saw Tang Shenzhen suddenly appearing in front of him. He yelled in fear, "Don't kill me, don't kill me, I'll give you whatever you want." Tang Shenzhen looked at Hong Lianke, who was begging, and a hint of indifference appeared in his eyes. "It's a pity that I only want you." After saying that, he waved his sleeves, and a puff of black smoke quickly enveloped Hung Liang. The next moment, Hung Liang's eyes were confused, and he slowly stood up and walked towards the tomb of the great Yu dynasty's Taizhu. Tang Shenzhen turned into a black light and flew in another direction. Less than 100 meters away from the exit of the royal cemetery, Zhang Lingyun was sweating profusely and rushed here quickly. His heart was full of fear. In the previous battle, he felt that he seemed to have intervened in some terrible conspiracy. If he didn't run for his life now, he would probably die here. At this time, he had already seen the gate of the royal cemetery exit. But above his head, an illusory shadow flashed in front of him. A black jade-like palm pressed down on him. Zhang Lingyun's soul was gone, and he rushed out with his right hand in a hurry, covered with blue-black light. When his right hand touched the black jade-like palm, his face changed drastically. A terrifying force broke out instantly. His fist shattered into countless pieces like glass. At the same time, the palm broke through the obstruction of his fist and hit his chest. Crack, crack, crack. His whole body seemed to have turned into glass. Countless black threads quickly covered his whole body. The next moment, his body turned into countless pieces and fell to the ground, piling up. After the blood and flesh spread on the ground, Tang Shenzhen looked indifferent, and his sleeves shone. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 265. A ball of pitch-black flame burst out from his sleeves, covering the flesh and blood. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow diamond suit. Sizzle. In a faint burning sound, the flesh and blood were burned to ashes. At this time, a breeze blew, and the ashes drifted away and disappeared on the road to the cemetery. After Tang Shenzhen did all this, his figure flashed and disappeared from here again. In the tomb of Taizhu of the Deu dynasty, Xingyueze looked at Hung Liang, who walked in with a confused face, and a hint of understanding appeared in his eyes. The senior is really amazing. He solved them so quickly. A ball of black light flashed in from the passage and then turned into Tang Shenzhen. He looked at Xingyueze. Are the people needed gathered? Including the people who set up the net today, there are a total of 13 royal families from the previous dynasty, and the bloodline has been gathered. We can start planning. Tang Shenzhen nodded with satisfaction. Okay, I noticed someone was peeping just now, do you have any information? Xingyueze nodded, someone just entered the tomb and attacked the captured people, so I was alarmed. After I went out, I found this fat man and the other two immortal masters. But after a fight, I found that the people who attacked were not the two of them, there was a fourth person. But this person hid very well, I didn't catch anyone a breath of air. Did Senior Tang Shenzhen meet him? When I killed one of the immortal masters, I noticed someone peeping. But when I searched carefully, he was gone. Although I don't know which side of the force it is, this matter can't be delayed any longer. Now that we have gathered the people, let's get started. Start today. You leave here first, leave it to me, the Prime Minister can't see your existence, otherwise he will be suspicious. Xingyueze nodded slightly, yes, Senior. I'll go and arrange it first, you can leave after you arrange it here. After saying that, Tang Shenzhen didn't wait for Xingyueze to reply, and turned into a black light and disappeared here. Xingyueze slowly walked down from the high platform and quickly disappeared into the tomb along the passage. Lin Yi had already left the royal cemetery, and he didn't know what happened here. But it is certain that a mysterious conspiracy is going on here. He felt that this conspiracy was related to the bloodline of the previous dynasty and was very dangerous. If he intervened rashly, he might bring him unbearable threats. He chose to leave directly and did not intend to intervene. He even called Lao Wei. Beep. Mr. Lin, it's so late, is there something wrong? Cancel all the information I asked you to release tomorrow, and don't let anyone know that you are investigating the Hongliang family. Lao Wei was sharp and noticed something, is there danger? Unpredictable danger, so you must be very careful. I feel that things will not be simple. You'd better go out and hide for a few days immediately. It's better to be careful. Lao Wei nodded, I understand. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yi thought of the task he had taken from Sakura Mia Shirley, frowned, and then dialed the phone. Lin Yi, calling so late, do you have any news? Can I come to your house now? I have something to talk to you about. Can't talk on the phone. I'm afraid of being monitored. Sakura Mia Shirley looked serious. Obviously, what did Lin Yi's words remind her of? The disappearance is related to the authorities, this thought flashed through her mind, and she was a little bit unconvinced. But after a little consideration, she said to the phone, come on, I'll send you the address. It was already around 11 o'clock in the evening, and there were almost no people on the street. There were even fewer people on the road from the suburbs to the city. Lin Yi stepped forward, his feet covered with golden light, and the speed seal was running to the limit, running towards the city. About 10 minutes later, he had arrived at the main street of the east city of Honglian City. He entered the address of the Honglian mansion on the mobile navigation and began to move quickly towards there. The figure was like a phantom, leaping across the street. Each flash was a distance of more than 10 meters, as if shrinking the earth into an inch. The mansion of the Sakura Palace family was in the east city, but in 10 minutes he had arrived at the gate of the mansion. After ringing the doorbell, a voice sounded on the video device in front of the gate. Excuse me, who are you looking for? This was an old voice, obviously a person like a butler. I'm looking for Sakura Mia Shirley. I have an appointment. Okay, please wait a moment. I need to verify it. A minute later, the gate slowly opened, and a long road extended to the inside. Lin Yi walked in, and along the asphalt road, he soon came to a huge white mansion. At this time, there were luxury cars parked in the yard in front of the gate, and a group of waiters in uniform stood in front of the gate. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi was a little dumbfounded, and was confused. Are you having a party? Just when Lin Yi was a little confused, an old man walked out of the gate of the mansion. The man was wearing a black butler suit, with neat makeup, and came to Lin Yi. "Sir, please follow me, the lady is waiting for you in the side hall." Lin Yi nodded and walked into the gate of the mansion under the guidance of the housekeeper. The lobby of the mansion is large enough, with reception staff, and there is a sofa for waiting by the window next to it. There are 2 winding stairs leading to the second floor on the left and right of the lobby. At the end of the lobby on the first floor is a huge door. The lights are brilliant inside, classical music echoes, and men and women in formal wear can be seen from time to time, a scene of luxury and wealth. Lin Yi did not look at it for long, as it was out of place for him, and the old housekeeper did not take him there. The old housekeeper led the way in front and took Lin Yi to the second floor. After climbing up to the second floor, they came to a door. Pushing open the door, it was a living room of more than 100 square meters. In the middle of the living room, there is an exquisite white lacquered round table and several white luxurious chairs, showing grace. The interior decoration of the room is also very classical, with famous paintings that look valuable hanging on the walls. Lin Yi was very interested in these valuable things, and a trace of envy flashed in his eyes. It's really the world of the rich, it's enviable. This thought flashed through his mind, and at this time the old butler led him to sit on a chair. "Sir, please wait a moment, I will go to inform the lady." "Okay, thank you for your trouble." The butler rang a bell, and a maid came in with a dining cart. The maid was wearing a classic black and white female costume, tall, graceful, and pretty. She looked to be in her 20s, the most beautiful age for a girl, full of pure hormones. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 266. The housekeeper looked at Lin Yi, smiled and said, "Sir, you can tell the maid what you want to drink, and she will mix it for you." Lin Yi nodded, "Okay, thank you." The housekeeper nodded slightly, "Then I'll take my leave first." Turning around and leaving, the maid pushed the dining cart to Lin Yi. A crisp voice sounded, and the maid looked at Lin Yi with bright eyes, "Sir, what do you want to drink?" Lin Yi thought for a while, "A glass of juice." "What flavor?" "Here are apple, coconut juice, and orange juice." "Coconut juice." The maid got the information, took out a fresh coconut from the dining cart, and started to fiddle with it. A few minutes later, a glass of pure coconut juice appeared in front of Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at the coconut juice and envied it in his heart. Coconuts grow on the seashore, more than 10,000 miles away from Honglian City. This is actually freshly squeezed coconut juice. Obviously, the Sakura Palace family often has these things. It's really luxurious and rich. I tasted the coconut juice, and it tasted very fresh, with a faint milky fragrance lingering in my mouth. Just after tasting the deliciousness, the door of the living room was pushed open again. Ta-da-da! The sound of high heels hitting the ground sounded, and a woman walked in. Lin Yi looked in the direction of the sound and was secretly surprised. Sakuramiya Shirley, wearing a pure black evening dress, walked in, with a light and delicate makeup on her face and a calm look in her eyes. The deep V evening dress revealed her snow-white and slender shoulders, and her long black hair fell behind her. The princess hairstyle was accompanied by an exquisite hairpin made entirely of tiny gems. On her chest was a necklace made of hundreds of gems of different sizes, which was very beautiful against her snow-white skin. She was wearing a pair of dark red high heels on her feet, the color of blood, making her look very eye-catching. There was a faint mysterious fluctuation all over her body, and Lin Yi could see it at a glance. It was the diffused spirit, covering a radius of 3 meters. When Sakuramiya Shirley came to Lin Yi, he felt the huge pressure on her. That was the pressure of the cultivation level. The third level of the human immortal path. "It's been a long time since I last saw you, but you've actually broken through to this level. Is this what it means to be poor in literature but rich in martial arts? A faint floral scent wafted through his nose, light but clear, and Lin Yi suddenly discovered something. This fragrance seems to appear only within the range of her essence. In other words, this fragrance is diffused from her essence. Is this the method she practices? It's really interesting. Sakuramiya surely looked at Lin Yi and sat directly opposite him. Her eyes swept over the maid beside her. You go down. The maid looked at Sakuramiya surely with longing. Obviously, in her eyes, Sakuramiya surely was the perfect woman. The person she longed to never become in her life. After hearing the order, she gently bent over and said, "Yes, miss." After that, he turned and walked out of the living room door. Looking at the maid who disappeared outside the door, Sakuramiya surely looked at Lin Yi and said slowly, "What did you find? Tell me now, it's safe here. There won't be any monitoring equipment." Lin Yi frowned. "Are you sure? You and your uncle seem to have a conflict. Are you sure your uncle didn't install any eavesdropping devices here?" Sakuramiya surely smiled slightly. "You are really cautious. Don't worry, I have asked someone to check here before you came. It's someone I trust." Lin Yi frowned. "Have you forgotten about Butler Xiaoqiu? The person I sent to check this time is completely under my control. If he violates my order, he will definitely die." Hearing this, Lin Yi nodded. He roughly understood what Sakuramiya surely meant. It is obvious that the other party controlled the life and death of that person by some means, just like he controlled absinthe and vodka. "That's fine. I've almost finished the things you asked me to investigate. This matter involves a wide range of people. There are mysterious people looking for descendants of some bloodlines. And this bloodline should be the royal bloodline of the previous dynasty. Among them, the two people who disappeared in your factory should be people of royal bloodline." Sakuramiya surely frowned when she heard this, royal bloodline of the previous dynasty. As far as I know, the royal bloodline should have been completely extinct more than 90 years ago. At that time, the Red Lotus Empire and the royal bloodline of the previous dynasty signed an abdication agreement, which completely obtained control of the entire Red Lotus world. But later a huge disaster occurred, and the royal bloodlines of the previous dynasty died during ancestor worship. All of them were wiped out. The official information of the empire is that the strange force White Gloves did it. But our family was already established at that time. So it is clear that the thing was done by the people of the imperial military. Now they are looking for these remaining bloodlines again. What do they want to do?" Lin Yi shook his head. "I don't know about that. But their goal is not small, because these royal descendants were lured to the tomb of Teju of the Deu dynasty. I was very careful to find out this information, and I don't plan to continue investigating this matter. The things inside are not something we can touch. At least I saw a strong man whose foundation is completely untraceable. A master of the first level of the human immortal way was killed with one strike," said Lin Yi, with a hint of complexity in his eyes. Obviously, the battle between Tung Shenzi and Wang Guanjia stimulated him, making him deeply realize that he was not strong enough. Sakuramiya surely looked at Lin Yi's complex expression. "What happened during your investigation? Can you tell me?" Lin Yi's heart moved. Maybe she knows something. Thinking of this, he saw the two masters around Honglianke. He told Sakuramiya surely the process of fighting with the two mysterious Taoists word for word. After listening to Lin Yi's words, Sakuramiya surely's face sank slightly, and she had guessed about the people who did this. She looked at Lin Yi with a serious look. "You have to be careful. If I am not mistaken, these two people are mysterious sect members." "Sect?" Lin Yi looked at Sakuramiya surely with doubts. "Just as you thought, they should be from a sect of practitioners, an ancient mysterious organization. Their history is even before our known history, and they are submerged in the torrent of millions of years of history. Since humans have written records, no trace of them has ever been found. Only on those distant ancient stone tablets are there records about them. What I am going to tell you next is some top secret information, don't reveal it. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 267. Lin Yi's face condensed, he felt as if he was about to touch the deepest secret of this world. The sect, it is said that they are a cultivation force established by humans, step by step through cultivation, from mortals to strong men. It is said that they are a group of explorers who pursue immortality and possess supreme power and knowledge. Once a huge and glorious civilization was established in an infinitely distant era. But I don't know what happened millions of years ago. The entire cultivation civilization disappeared in the long river of history, leaving only countless ordinary people. The civilization also retreated to the primitive age, and finally experienced countless time. Only then did the dynasty civilization develop on the land of the Red Lotus realm, and it has continued to this day. According to the various information we have obtained from the stone tablets and relics of the ancient times, the reason why the cultivation civilization disappeared is because the spirituality in the air is disappearing. Those sects that practice Taoism seem to have hidden themselves to avoid the disappearance of spirituality. After the First World Change 3 years ago, we found that the sects reappeared in the Red Lotus realm. But they are very secretive, and no one knows where they are. It's just that someone from the sect entered the Red Lotus realm and started to contact us. Basically, all major forces have contact with these people. Even some people from major forces have become disciples of these sects to learn more advanced cultivation methods. After hearing this, Lin Yi looked at Sakura Miyaswili. You should be one of those who have become disciples of these sections. Sakura Miyaswili did not hide it. Yes, I entered the Beiwasian zone, which belongs to the righteous section. The information I got from my master is that the cultivation world is divided into two paths, the righteous and the evil. It is divided into various sects and factions inside, and generally speaking, it is actually no different from the organizational system of mortals. The two people you met today, if I am not mistaken, should be people in the evil way. It is hard to say whether they have any connection with those forces, and it is also difficult to guess what they are doing now. But you have found out so many things, and this mission can be considered a success. I will give you a suggestion to improve your cultivation as quickly as possible. After the Second World Change, the Third World Change will not too far away. Then the sects will really begin to reappear in the Red Lotus realm one after another. No one knows what the situation will be like at that time. Only your own strength can protect yourself. And because of the prosperity of these strange forces for millions of years, the reappearance of these sects will inevitably trigger a war. The competition for resources, the division of territory, and the emergence of ambitious people will rekindle the war in the empire. No one can stay out of it in this era. Whether your Wanchaiwa can continue to operate is also a problem in the future. How about it? Are you interested in joining our family? According to your strength, I can give you very good treatment. Sakura Miyaswili invited Lin Yi with a faint smile on her face. Lin Yi did not think of joining the other forces. If he had not obtained the mobile thatched house slab, he might have agreed. But after obtaining the mobile thatched house slab, it was another matter. A nest that can be moved at will gives him enough confidence to face any danger. Looking at Sakura Miyaswili, Lin Yi smiled slightly. That's not necessary, I still have the power to protect myself. Sakura Miyaswili was rejected by Lin Yi but was not angry. She smiled slightly. Okay, since you are not interested in this, I will not force you. But my conditions are always valid. If you figure it out in the future, you can come to me. A palm-sized jade bottle appeared in her hand. Dang. Put it gently on the table, this is your reward this time. I will deposit the gold coins into your account. This mission ends here. If I have something to do in the future, I will look for you to cooperate again. Lin Yi picked up the Ling Yuan pill with a smile on his face, then thank you for your patronage. Dong. The door of the reception room in the side hall was suddenly opened, and a figure walked in unceremoniously. A somewhat irritable voice sounded. Swilly, who is looking for you so late? You are asked to leave all the guests behind and come to meet them in person. Introduce me to him. The voice was full of irritability, and there was a hint of jealousy and anger. Lin Yi looked at the man who came, a man in a fine suit. He was very handsome, with a sinister look between his eyebrows and a flash of cruelty in his eyes. With a flash of green light in his eyes, Lin Yi caught the resentment that permeated the man. Although he was not a good person, he had killed many people. When Sakura Miyaswili heard this voice, her brows furrowed and a hint of impatience appeared in her eyes. She looked at Lin Yi apologetically and stood up to look at the person behind her. Donggong Wudi, you broke into my reception room like this, isn't it too rude? Donggong Wudi looked at Sakura Miyaswili, and the anger on his face disappeared. There was only Sakura Miyaswili in his eyes, nothing else. Swilly, I'm afraid you'll be deceived by some dubious person. So I want to come and see who it is that asked you to leave the banquet. How big of a face is that? At this point, his tone suddenly became stern, staring at Lin Yi fiercely. Lin Yi put away the Ling Yuan pill and stood up from his seat without even looking at the nobleman named Donggong Wudi. He said to Sakura Miyaswili lightly, Miss Sakura Miya, I'm leaving first. Sakura Miyaswili nodded, okay, you go first, be careful on the road. Lin Yi nodded and strode out of the living room door. Donggong Wudi saw that Lin Yi didn't take him seriously at all, and didn't even look at him. A feeling of humiliation of being despised surged in his heart. In his world, no one could ignore his words. Looking at Lin Yi who was walking by him, he was furious. He punched Lin Yi's head with a punch, which brought a black and red glow, full of murderous aura. The top-level aura showed his extraordinariness. But unfortunately, he felt that his eyes were blurred and he had lost the trace of Lin Yi. A punch hit the air. At this time, Lin Yi had already arrived at the door of the reception room. He took a step out and disappeared in the living room. During the whole process, he did not even look at Donggong Wudi. It was as if he was a pile of garbage on the side of the road, not worth looking at all. Donggong Wudi's face turned as pale as a pig's liver. He had never felt as humiliated as he did now. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 268. At this time, a cold voice sounded in his ears. Donggong Wudi, are you provoking my Yinggong family? How dare you fight in front of me? Donggong Wudi's body froze. Hearing Yinggong Swili's cold words, he knew that she was really angry. He and Yinggong Swili had known each other since childhood, so he naturally knew each other's character clearly. He turned his head awkwardly and looked at Sakura Miyaswili, with an ugly smile on his face. Swili, don't be angry, how dare I provoke you? I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Smoke GW. It's just that this person is too unreasonable. He dared to ignore me. If I don't teach him a lesson, where will our Donggong family's face be? Sakura Miyaswili took a deep breath. This person is my guest, so I don't allow you to trouble him. If you continue to make trouble for me, then our friendship will end here. Hearing what Sakura Miyaswili said, Donggong Wudi's face suddenly became even uglier. He showed a trace of anger on his face, and turned around and left the side hall. Although Sakura Miyaswili's words embarrassed him, he didn't want to quarrel with Sakura Miyaswili. He liked her since he was a child, and he never gave up after pursuing her until now. Naturally, he was even more unwilling to quarrel with Sakura Miyaswili. So he has directed all his anger at Lin Yi. After walking out of the side hall, a sturdy bodyguard quickly caught up with him, and he returned to the ballroom. On the way, he said to the sturdy bodyguard, Go and investigate for me who the man was just now. Then find someone to kill him for me. Yes, sir. Jianchuo's bodyguard turned around and left after hearing this, and began to arrange work. This Dong Gongwudi returned to the venue and became the protagonist of the venue. Many beautiful women and socialites gathered around him, teasing him in various ways, as if they wanted to reach a consensus with him. At this time, Dong Gongwudi was a little furious, holding a glass of high-strength wine in his hand and drinking it in one gulp. He took a deep breath, and a man with an evil look on his face walked over to him. "Young Master Dong Gong, you don't look very happy? What happened?" Dong Gongwudi glanced at the evil-looking man and said in a deep voice, "Nothing." Dong Gongwudi would naturally not say anything embarrassing. However, the evil-looking man seemed to know something, and smiled slightly, looking at Dong Gongwudi. "I know who the man who came out of the side hall just now is. The man's name is Lin Yi. He opened a coffee shop called Wanchaiwu, specializing in handling various strange and evil spirit events to earn commissions. Last time in Honglian City, various forces competed for the core strange object of the strange illusion. I heard that the core strange object fell into his hands in the end. He even repelled the genius Mobi of the white gloves, and Yan Menjao from the hospital also retreated. And he is now an external specialist of the Black Clothes Blood Department. He has shown amazing power and is also a good player in the human immortal way. If you want to deal with him, I advise you to think twice before acting." Dong Gongwudi frowned when he heard the words of this evil man, and looked at him with a strange look. "Wang Jianzhang, how do you know these things? From your appearance, you have studied this person for a long time. And how do you know that he came out of the movie hall?" Wang Jianzhang smiled strangely, because our Wang family is very interested in his strange illusion core object. So this matter has been handled by me, looking for the right opportunity. Humph, your Wang family is really unwilling to give up. No one will give up on power. Only those who have power have everything. Without power, you are always the meat on someone else's chopping board, and others can cut it however they want. And isn't it the same for your Dong Gong family?" Dong Gongwudi looked at Wang Jianzhang. "Why do you want to tell me this?" Wang Jianzhang smiled slightly. "Given this person's identity and power, I have never had a good time to make a move. But if Mr. Dong Gong is interested, maybe we can work together to do something. I only want his strange illusion core strange object, and you can take his life." Dong Gongwudi looked at Wang Jianzhang, with a faint cold light in his eyes. "You are really taking advantage of every opportunity. This is a powerful alliance to share the risk." Wang Jianzhang had a faint evil smile on his face. "Okay, we can join forces and set up a trap. Let this savage who came from nowhere see the methods of the powerful people in Honglian City." Dong Gongwudi's face showed a faint smile, full of boundless murderous intent. Lin Yi naturally didn't know that he had been targeted by two nobles in Honglian City at this time. However, he was still a little wary of Dong Gongwudi, who met before leaving. Those who can enter and exit the Sakura Palace's dance party are obviously not small characters. And he dared to talk to Sakura Palace surely so unreasonably, obviously he was not small. "It seems that I have to pay attention recently." Lin Yi walked out of the Sakura Palace's mansion. Looking at the faint moonlight and endless stars in the sky, his eyes slightly turned cold. The powerful class has always been troublesome. In the dark night, there were only dim street lights on the street. Lin Yi walked slowly on the road and saw that it was about 11:10. "We have to go back before 12 o'clock. Now the frequency of alien beings coming to the Wanchi house is getting higher and higher. Even multiple alien beings will appear. This is really getting more and more dangerous." The journey was very peaceful and no accidents happened. At this time, a strange change was happening in the tomb of Teju of the Dao dynasty. Tong Shenzi and Dong Gong Taiyu both appeared here. Dong Gong Taiyu stood at the end of the passage and watched the mysterious ceremony going on in the tomb. The golden coffin was located in the center of the tomb, surrounded by 13 standing figures. The walls, ground, and ceiling of the tomb were covered with all kinds of strange patterns. Tongshenzi stood next to the coffin, his hands were changing. He pinched out one spell after another, and finally turned into a ball of black light and injected it into the formation under his feet. As the spells were injected one after another, the tomb lit up with a dark light, lighting up all the lines. It was visible to the naked eye that a few dark spots of light in the void were quickly gathering and finally merged into the formation. Donggong Taiyou stood at the entrance of the passage, looking at the magical scene in front of him, with a very surprised expression on his face. As the formation was lit up, a mysterious wave appeared. The 13 figures standing in the tomb began to dry up rapidly. A blood-red power was drawn from their bodies and injected into the formation under their feet. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 269. The entire formation was instantly shrouded in blood light, accompanied by countless black lights, and began to flow towards the golden coffin in the center. Tongshenzi flashed to the side of Donggong Taiyou, with a faint cold light in his eyes, looking at the center of the tomb formation. This is called the bloodline rebirth method. Through the bloodline of descendants and the power of the formation, the great ancestor of the Dao dynasty is resurrected in the form of a blood demon. This blood demon is one of the 36 demons in the heavens. It can devour flesh and blood infinitely and eventually grow into the supreme demon blood sea. As long as there is flesh and blood to nourish, it will never die and live forever. I use his bloodline to make the great ancestor of the Dao dynasty reborn from death and gather the remaining dragon energy in the bloodline of the previous dynasty. First, you need to hold this dragon-slaying sword to kill the resurrected blood demon. The dragon energy will be absorbed by the dragon-slaying sword, and at this time, you will have a cause and effect with the Dao dynasty. Only after the cause and effect are formed, you are qualified to cut off the remaining dragon veins of the Dao dynasty. After you cut off the remaining dragon veins, you can use the dragon-slashing sword to devour the power of the entire remaining dragon veins and replenish your own dragon energy consumption. The dragon veins can not only make up for the dragon energy leakage caused by the Second World Change. It can also allow you to further advance the true method you have obtained and break through to the legendary Earth Immortal path. For countless years, countless people have been stuck before this level. You only have an opportunity once in tens of millions of years. As he said, Tongshenzi showed a trace of envy on his face and looked at Donggong Taiyou. In the distant past, the emperor of the dynasty could not practice because of the dragon energy. But in this era, the prime minister of the Red Lotus Empire has a certain amount of dragon energy, but he can practice. This is a phenomenon that has not happened in countless years. With the blessing of dragon energy, I don't know how far you can go. Tongshenzi's words were full of envy, and there was a hint of hidden jealousy. Donggong Taiyou could clearly hear the subtext. If there is a way to exchange his identity with Tongshenzi, the other party will definitely replace him without hesitation. The road to the earthly immortal means a long life and powerful strength, as well as completely getting rid of the threats that mortal bodies have to face. At this time, a black long knife about 1 meter long appeared in Tongshenzi's hand. The handle of the knife is the position of the dragon head, and the extended body is the back of the knife. A black blade is embedded in the back of the knife, and the back of the knife looks like a spine. A knife tassel is connected to the dragon mouth of the handle, and it moves automatically without wind as if it has some inexplicable power. Tongshenzi was reluctant to give up and handed the knife to Donggong Taiyou. This is the dragon-slaying sword inherited from my master. Only this sword can kill the emperor and the dragon vein. It took countless natural treasures and sacrifices to complete it. Only this sword can withstand the causal backlash of killing the emperor or the dragon vein. Originally, This weapon was forged to test a peerless method. Unfortunately, after this weapon was forged, the senior of my master's sect was killed by the backlash of heaven and earth before he could leave behind the peerless method. It made my sect lose a chance to reach the sky. Donggong Taiyu looked at the rare, complex and reluctant expression on Tongshen's face. He was moved. It seems that this sword is really precious. Kill the ancestor of the Dao dynasty, inherit the dragon energy to establish cause and effect, and then kill the remaining dragon veins, absorb the power of the dragon veins to make a breakthrough. One link after another, it is indeed extraordinary. These ancient sects are really powerful, and their methods are endless. There was a trace of vigilance in his eyes, and he stretched out his hand to take the dragon-slaying sword from Tongshen's hand. When he held the hilt, he could feel that Tongshen didn't want to let go of the knife. After 5 seconds, Tongshen slowly let go of his hands. Donggong Taiyu looked at Tongshen. The Taoist seems to value this knife very much. Is it related to this knife? Yes, this knife was forged by an ancestor. For today's things, the sect spent a lot of money to make a deal with my family, otherwise we would never take out this dragon-slaying knife. Donggong Taiyu suddenly realized it after hearing this. So that's it? Haha. Donggong Taiyu waved his right hand a few times, and the knife light cut through the air, making a faint sound of breaking through the air. His face changed slightly. The sharpness of this dragon-slaying knife exceeded his imagination. Just waving it casually can cut through the air, and there is a mysterious power that is vaguely shrouded in this knife light. At this time, the entire formation was changing. The golden coffin was covered with blood-colored brilliance, and countless strange traces, patterns and runes covered the coffin. A strange heartbeat slowly rose from the coffin, and the heartbeat was so clear that it quickly filled the entire tomb. Dong 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 dong. Tongshen's face suddenly became serious, and his eyes looked at Donggong Taiyu. Prime Minister, get ready. As soon as the coffin is broken, you will immediately attack the things rushing out of it and kill it completely. The newly born blood demon will not be too powerful. The great ancestor of the Dao dynasty used special items to ensure that his body would not decay for 1,000 years. After absorbing the yin qi of the earth for hundreds of years, I can use this method to transform it into a blood demon smoothly. Although he won't be too strong at first, he will quickly master his power as time goes by, so you have about half an hour left. If you are really defeated, I will also assist you and help you kill him. Donggong Taiyu smiled faintly. Don't worry, I don't care about a mere newborn blood demon. Boom. Just as the two were talking, the golden coffin exploded. A blood shadow rushed out of it. It was a blood shadow wearing an emperor's robe, floating in the air. He let out an angry roar, roar. It seemed that there were countless angers about to burst out. At this time, Donggong Taiyu had already rushed up without saying a word. The dragon-slaying sword in his hand burst into a buzzing sound, and a dark light rose from it. Instantly, the sword light extended 3 meters away. In Donggong Taiyu's hand, the sword light was like a swimming dragon pointing directly at the blood shadow's head. This blood shadow had just been born, and his mind was not very bright. Facing the sudden black knife light, he instinctively raised his hands to block the knife light. With one stroke, the blood shadow's hands were cut off instantly, and at the same time, the dragon-slaying knife was like a black hole. It instantly sucked the blood light from the two arms into it. Roar. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 270. The great Yu dynasty's Taiju, who had turned into a blood demon, was completely irrational. After his arms were cut off, he roared in anger. His body suddenly rushed towards Donggong Taiyu, but the sword light did not stop at this time. A black light flashed by, and the blood demon was split in half in mid-air. The blood demon with infinite potential had not yet exerted his abilities, and he had already died in the hands of Donggong Taiyu. and the blood demon who was killed, all the blood in his body was sucked into the dragon-slaying sword. The dragon-shaped structure formed by the back and handle of the dragon-slaying sword appeared with a faint blood thread. It was like a dragon scripture, running through the dragon's head to the dragon's tail, and the entire dragon-slaying sword seemed to be alive and had a soul. Tongshenzi beside him nodded slightly. Okay, the dragon-slaying sword has absorbed the remaining dragon energy from the blood demon. It has inherited the cause and effect of the Dao dynasty. The next step is to find the remaining dragon veins of the Dao dynasty. This step will take a lot of time, so we'll stop here today. Donggong Taiyu looked at the dragon-slaying sword in his hand, thinking. He did feel that there was a wonderful change in the sword. A mysterious power surrounded the entire blade, perhaps the cause and effect that Tongshenzi mentioned. Tongshenzi looked at Donggong Taiyu. This dragon-slaying sword is temporarily kept by you, Prime Minister. Please note that the law of cause and effect is extremely mysterious. You must not let others touch this dragon-slaying sword, otherwise the cause and effect may change to some extent. When you cut off the dragon vein in the end, it may cause unknown changes, and even lead to all the failures. Before you complete the last step, you must not be careless. Donggong Taiyu nodded. Master, please rest assured, I will keep this sword properly. Tonight, Donggong Taiyu saw many things that he had never seen before. At the same time, he also deeply felt the power and heritage of these ancient sects. These sects can be used, and they are definitely enough to fight against the weird forces. It seems that the military plan can bring these sects in. With his eyes slightly narrowed, Donggong Taiyu had a plan in his mind. A few minutes later, the two left the tomb and closed the entrance to the tomb. From the outside, it was completely impossible to see that there was a passage leading directly to the center of the tomb. Less than half an hour after they left, a figure arrived here. This person was wearing a light blue Taoist robe and looked about 20 years old. He exuded a faint sense of vicissitudes, and his eyes were full of infinite wisdom. A slight smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and two rays of light in his eyes penetrated the entire tomb. Kishan Dao sect, it is a good hand, but the benefits cannot be taken by you alone. As soon as the voice fell, he had arrived in the center of the tomb. A clear light diffused from his body and quickly swept across the tomb. After a while, a group of faint breath floated into his hand. I saw a treasure mirror in his hand, swallowing the breath into it. The next moment, a series of pictures appeared in the treasure mirror, which was exactly what Tongshenzi and Donggong Taiyu did here just now. Humph, the Nishan Dao sect is just the same as before, a dog can't change its eating habits. They've touched the cause and effect of the dragon veins, and they dare to do anything to get further. The mysterious Taoist shook his head and turned around and disappeared here. In the Wanqi house, it was already 11:50 when Zhuang Liuming returned home. Looking at the clock in the lobby, he couldn't help shaking his head. It's 12 o'clock again, time flies so fast. Cuckoo cuckoo. The sound of the bird announcing the dawn of the classical clock sounded, and the whole Wanqi house fell into a strange silence. Suddenly, a strange wave came from the basement of the Wanqi house. Lin Yi's eyes showed a hint of joy. It seems that there are beings from another world coming tonight. A few steps to the kitchen, looking at the ground in the corner of the kitchen, there has been a passage leading to the underground. Coming to the underground maze, Lin Yi's brows jumped. I saw that the ground, walls, and canopy of the maze, everywhere there are walls that are bulging outwards. The distortion of time and space, things that look like evil spirits are drilling out. In this passage alone, Zhuang Liuming saw at least more than 10 of these strange beings. These strange beings all look the same, with grayish-white skin, a body about half the size of a person, a face with only 3 holes, slender hands, and 5 sharp claws on the palms. Each of them exudes a peak-level aura. Looking at this scene, Zhuang Liuming frowned. There are a lot of them. The projection of the entire maze appeared in his mind, at least more than 100 of these strange beings are trying to pass through the barrier of time and space and struggle out. Lin Yi moved his mind and notified Absinthe and Vodka, asking them to bring brandy down. At the same time, the 4 summons in the summoning album have appeared next to him. At this time, in the corridor where Lin Yi is, the beings from other worlds have rushed out one after another. More than a dozen gloomy eyes stared at Lin Yi and rushed towards him suddenly. The purple corpse monster had already blocked his way. Countless fists burst out in an instant, covering the area in front. In this narrow passage, the purple corpse monster is a one-man defense, and 10,000 men cannot break through. The violent power vented out from his hands crazily. The weird child and the 2-headed dog stood on both sides of the purple corpse. Countless black smoke tentacles and ice and fire swept forward. Suddenly, half of the dozen weird beings in this wave died on the spot. Some were killed by the purple corpse monster's fists, some were frozen or burned by ice and fire, or pierced and twisted by the tentacles of the night. The weird beings in this passage were completely destroyed in a short time. Bang bang bang. Roars came from other directions of the passage, and it was obvious that more weird beings had arrived. There was a clattering sound from behind. Vodka, Absinthe, and Brandy, the 3 of them had arrived at the underground maze. Brandy was nervous, with a flash of worry in his eyes. What happened to the store manager? At this time, his eyes saw more than a dozen strange bodies lying on the ground in front of the passage. His pupils shrank, and his whole body trembled. Vodka and Absinthe were accustomed to seeing this scene. Death was just a common occurrence for them. Next, we have to clean up the various strange beings in this underground maze. You can join us too. Brandy, you can get familiar with your own strength. These strange beings are not strong, but rushing to the top and penetrating the body are no problem at all.